I want to welcome everyone to this Insure You small business presentation. And I want to thank Steve Moore and the Washington, D.C. Economic Partnership for hosting this event. And what I hear a lot from small businesses, and one thing I always like try to talk to the community, is we don't necessarily have, they don't have necessary access to capital. Access to capital to pay employees, access to capital to actually bid on certain jobs. They don't have access to a lot of the surety bonds that's needed by the construction industry. And what we've been attempting to do is act as a conduit between the consumers, the small businesses, and the actual insurance companies and other businesses that we regulate. The other issue that I wanted to discuss real quickly before I get into the presentation is understanding risk assessment and risk management. A lot of small businesses, and Harold mentioned this, and it happened in the Eastern Market case, no one identified the risk exposures that they actually had. You can go along all day and be a great technical person, understand your business, and do well. But as soon as you have a fire, as soon as you have some other type of mishap, you actually lose everything that you had. And insurance is actually, basically, in its basic terms, the oxygen that makes the economy grow. Without insurance, you will not be able to have a vibrant economy in Washington, D.C. So one thing I've been trying to tell my insurance companies and producers, that they need to explain the products that they're out there selling to the community. A lot of times they just assume that the consumers understand what's out there. And these are very, very technical products. So in cases, and at the end of this presentation, if you have a question on a particular product, you have a question on a particular producer, please contact our office. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you understand a lot of these technical issues that's going on in the industry. Group health insurance, which is a big issue for small businesses, it's almost a bifurcated type of health insurance process that's going on now in the city and as well as the nation. Everyone hear about uninsured folks, but the majority of the uninsured people come from two categories. One is the individual process, individual health insurance coverage, because it's very, very high and expensive to get individual coverage, and small groups, because small employer groups, small employers cannot afford to provide this kind of coverage and this benefit to their employees, so they either have to make a determination on whether they're going to stay open or whether they're going to grow or whether they're going to provide this expensive coverage. Workers' compensation insurance protects business owners from claims against employees, and it's a statutory requirement for businesses to have workers' compensation insurance. So please understand that. You can have it in two different ways, and most companies are required to carry this insurance and may face fines and penalties for non-compliance. And in Washington, D.C., workers' compensation insurance is pretty much certified. The programs are certified by the Department of Employment Services. And in certifying these programs, you can actually, I think a lot of our big companies, the Washington Post, the Marriott, and the others, have their own self-insurance workers' compensation programs. That's not even a viable option for small businesses. They have to go and buy this coverage from the insurance companies, and sometimes this is very expensive. And key persons life insurance we discussed a little bit before. And I think that's a good product for small businesses that have one or two key people. When they surveyed the small businesses involved in this, 71% of surveys say that they are very dependent on one or two people, which is the reason why they need it, and only 22 have such coverage. Business property and liability insurance is almost a mainstay of any business. With the slip and falls and when our litigious environment in the United States, if you have a business and if you don't have business property and liability insurance in some form or fashion, you're putting yourself at risk. We found that out in situations with the small businesses in the Eastern Market. And it pretty much is P&C coverage, but only about a third have business interruption insurance, which is a particular part of, is a particular rider on business property and liability insurance. And what business interruption insurance do, it covers payroll and utility bills, but it covers it while you are down. If your business is down for 2 or 3 months, trying to, like in the situation with Eastern Market, those businesses are going to be pretty much out waiting for the building to get rebuilt. I know they have temporary quarters now, but if they was waiting for the building to get built in a year, the insurance companies would would reimburse or indemnify them for the 12 months of being without being able to sell their sell their products. And I think that's something that's a very good product. And 35% of the small business surveyed had business interruption insurance. In 2001, one thing I want to mention, in 2001, 9/11 and 2001, when we had the terrorist event occurred, and I want everybody to understand it didn't happen in Washington, but Washington was affected. It was a new product that was established that was almost a rider on top of the business interruption. It's something called municipal ordinance insurance. In essence, and like in New York, downtown New York, on the Wall Street area, the city says we're shutting down the whole area. Their business was up, the building was there, they could actually open, but they told everyone you could not go down in that area. So the insurance company says that's not business interruption because we don't have to pay anything to indemnify you for your property, but you can't get coverage, so they establish a separate, different rider. These home-based business insurance, and this is a misnomer that we really need to work with small businesses on. Most of the home-based business insurance issues, nearly half rely on their own homeowner's insurance and assume that that's going to cover any kind of liability that happened with your business or any kind of property loss that happened with your business because, oh, I got a homeowner's policy and it's happening in my house, I can just have it covered. No, that's not necessarily the case. And 48% of home-based businesses depend on their homeowner's insurance to protect them for liability and property losses. And it's limited coverage on business, and I mean very limited. And in most cases, it does exclude business-related liability. Auto insurance, a similar problem. About half of the companies, small businesses surveyed, said they use personal auto insurance coverage and to cover their commercial risk, and that they usually personal auto have lower liability limits and they exceed the business-related liability requirements. And see, 52% of them use their personal auto insurance and assume that when you use a personal auto that you can go out and do a commercial business, that the insurance company is going to indemnify you. If they find out, a lot of times they will deny that claim. And the department pushed out a campaign to provide information to individuals. And this is the second segment of this process to go to the small businesses. In the information we provide to individuals, we developed pretty much life stages. One is dealing with young singles, young families, established families, and empty nesters. And you can go to the NAIC website and you can see information on that. But it's very, very important to understand that as you go through different life stages, you would have different insurance needs. And similarly, as you go from a small business to a medium-sized business and to a larger business, and what the Office of Local and Small Business Development is attempting to do is get people in the certification program. We're going to be trying to establish insurance needs that target each one of those segments, and I think that'll be very, very beneficial to them as well. Let's get smart about insurance. I know we talk about the surveys on each one of those 6 categories, but now we want to get a little bit into some of the things that you should do as small businesses relative to these categories. And at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about the Fight Fake Insurance campaign. And most folks think, well, oh, everybody out here that says that I sell insurance is licensed and they're selling you a legitimate product. That's not necessarily the case, and we're finding out that a lot of folk are actually taking premiums from individuals and not providing coverage. And I think if you have any question at all about the legitimacy of an individual producer, you can go on our website and get information, or you can contact us.